Yes, I am working on all those reviews that I said I was. I just need more time. So I'm going to give you this review in the meantime. A lot of people were bummed that I didn't do any dishonorable mentions on my top worst cartoons of the 2000 list. I can go on and give you all the candidates right now, but I think it would be better to just tackle them in their own reviews. Starting with what would have been number 11. I actually had a very hard time keeping this off of the list, and even to this day, I think that I should have tried just a little bit harder to justify a place for it. I remember the horror of this show quite well, because every episode basically started with a horror chord. It's the sound that happens while a serial killer is standing outside your house, right before he revs up the chainsaw to break and mutilate you. And the rest of the theme song isn't much better. Would you even call this a theme song? It's just people shouting the word Rodney over and over again. The only thing it does is make you want to gouge your ears out with a pencil, unless your name actually is Rodney. In that case, it makes you start resenting your parents so much that you're willing to take a plane to another country so that you never have to speak to them again. At least, that's my guess at how any Rodneys would feel listening to this theme song. This show came out in 2006, when things were really going downhill on Cartoon Network. It had been a few years since Kids Next Door had first aired, the last show to bear the cartoon title, and we were in a storm of mediocre to bad shows. Out of Jimmy's Head was right around the corner. This is when a lot of people stopped watching Cartoon Network, and even in comparison to all of that, this show was still pretty awful. The show stars an asshole. Honestly, I could end my review right there because that about sums it up. In my head, this show actually gets mixed up a lot with the Cram Twins. One of the characters is a neurotic neat freak and the other one is an asshole, with constant get-rich-quick schemes. It's a concept that's been done before, and for it to stand out, you've got to make it very unique. They do not do this. Every episode that I've watched of this show has ended up being largely the same. So my choice of episode this time around is largely arbitrary. We're gonna watch The Big Haggle Hassle, because why not? The episode has Rodney, Andy, and his father going to the flea market. That's an interesting location with plenty of potential for comedy. Wanna guess what pretty much every joke in this episode is gonna be about?
That's called haggling, Andy-o.
Immediately, Rodney sees some records.
That's called a record album. They play music. Beautiful, scratchy, poppy, skippy music.
Actually, there are plenty of records that play terrible music too. Just saying, because this scene is pretty much devoid of humor. I say that because this show was supposed to be a comedy, but the humor isn't so much bad as it is non-existent.
This one has a big scratch. I'll take it.
Ha! Misdirection. The same person who made this made Duckman.
Wow, there's too many things to choose from. Wow, there's too many things to choose from.
You might want to redo that line. I think that you're supposed to be funny, but it sounds like you literally had no stage directions. And considering how lazy the show is, that might very well be the case. Honestly, Rodney has the same basic personality type as Duckman. Emphasis on basic. Just take away any likability and remove any decent target for his asshole-ish behavior.
I am Bugatron, some kind of a bug robot hybrid I haven't fully developed as a character.
He said it, not me. So they play with random flea market stuff and come across an angry clown head.
Man, that is ugly with a capital letter.
Get it? He's stupid. So Andy wants to buy it, but first he wants to wash his hands because there really is no point in describing it. Andy goes to the bathroom and starts washing his hands, and the scene goes on way too long. It's like there was a bunch of spaces marked insert joke here on the script that they just never bothered to fill in. So many jokeless scenes just go on and pad out each episode. Rodney eventually comes to a beef jerky stand and he eats all of the samples. Get the joke? He's an inconsiderate asshole and there's absolutely no point to his mean-spiritedness. That works, right? It's worked in all of the other shows that I reviewed. Then Rodney starts haggling. He ends up giving all of Andy's $5 to the beef jerky man. Because we need to have a plot, I guess. And even if you've never seen this show before, you knew that this exact scenario would happen as soon as Rodney started talking about haggling. There's a line when foreshadowing becomes insulting the audience's intelligence, and they cross that line as soon as they pitch the show to Cartoon Network. How do I describe how forced all of this is? Andy should be intelligent enough to know exactly how responsible Rodney was. Rodney is his fucking pet, and he's had him for how long at this point? How many zany schemes has he been subjected to? Andy needing to wash his hands for literally no reason, they just shoehorn it in. It's almost like the show itself is admitting how forced everything is. Even ignoring all of that, why couldn't Andy keep the money in his pocket while he washed his hands? I'm not asking for much, just a plausible reason for the plot to work. But, by any standards, this screams, we weren't thinking about anything and we just wanted a paycheck as soon as possible because we hate our lives. That's probably the biggest problem with the show. When it does try to be funny or have a plot, which is exceedingly rare, it is so forced. A kid comes into the bathroom and his hamster is about to give birth. Why would you bring a pregnant hamster to a flea market? Okay, let's assume that he bought it there. How does he know that it's pregnant and about to give birth? If he knew that before he bought the hamster, why would he buy that? Why would you take a pregnant hamster into the men's room at a flea market? What was he gonna do if there was no one in there? The joke is so nonsensical that you're too busy questioning why it's happening to actually find it funny. So Rodney realizes that he done screwed up.
Oh man, there really are no new ideas.
Yeah, but that's no excuse not to try. He ends up getting a job at a random stand.
You're hired.
Meanwhile, Andy finds a bunch of VHS tapes for a science fiction series.
This is the one where the brain guy does the mind thing to the fish guy. And this is the one where the fish guy does the fin thing to the plant guy.
The joke is, actually, I have no idea. Like, see if you can help me out. What's the joke? He's seen the entire series, I guess? Let me try it and see how this works out. I've seen all of the Indiana Jones movies. Is everyone laughing? Why aren't you laughing? The ingenious comedy stylings of Squirrel Boy taught me that that was extremely funny. Andy's dad comes by and Rodney disguises himself. And speaking of jokes that I don't get,
I remember how hard it was for Panicky to adjust.
I want you to have it easier. So I brought everybody.
what? Just what? Rodney tries to prevent Andy's dad from buying the clown head, but then he offers a 20 for it. And then this happens.
I want to buy that clown for my dad. It's so important to me. It means everything. Twice everything.
Why does it matter now? Andy's dad already has the clown. If this was a stranger, it would actually make sense in the plot. But otherwise, Andy's dad ends up in the same place regardless. Also, I thought the clown head was at a different stand. Rodney steals the clown head and then shenanigans ensue. So many shenanigans. The ending is my favorite part. Rodney runs into Andy and their collision gets the clown head to break, rendering this entire story pointless. Well, except for all the damage they caused. Andy's dad is about to pay for things even though he did absolutely nothing wrong, but Rodney is stupid and he makes things worse by trying to haggle. And now apparently they owe the market vendors $1 million. Don't you just love it when people who don't do anything get punished? Sorry that this wasn't my biggest or most exciting review ever, but I have a lot of big projects on the back burner that I'm trying to put my full thought into. Next time, my friends, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting.